Hello everybody! Welcome back to our channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's John from Ali, and it's time for another episode of Native Speed Listening. Does everybody remember the format? First, I will say a phrase 3 times. Listen and try to understand what I'm saying. Then, I will explain what was said, and I will discuss the meaning and the grammar and pronunciation changes. Then finally, at the end, we will have a little bit of pronunciation practice. So please feel free to repeat after me as many times as possible. Now let's go ahead and get out our notebooks and our pencils and get ready to do some writing. Today's theme is idioms related to food. Now, let's get started. It's time for our first phrase. I wish I could stay and chew the fat, but I've got to get going. I wish I could stay and chew the fat, but I've got to get going. I wish I could stay and chew the fat, but I've got to get going. This phrase was, I wish I could stay and chew the fat, but I've got to get going. Now, we have a new phrase here, chew the fat. To chew the fat means to have a long discussion with somebody, especially in a relaxed manner. It is also often used as a gerund, chewing the fat. We enjoy chewing the fat with tea, for example. Notice at the end of this sentence, but I've got to get going turns into, but I gotta get going. When we say, I've got to, in day-to-day quick spoken speech, it becomes I gotta. Notice we have the same TD sound reduction here as in many of our listening exercises. And at the end here, get going means I need to leave soon. I've gotta get going. I need to leave soon. I can't stay and have a nice conversation. Now, on to our next phrase. That's an interesting idea. Let me chew on it for a bit. That's an interesting idea. Let me chew on it for a bit. That's an interesting idea. Let me chew on it for a bit. This phrase was, that's an interesting idea. Let me chew on it for a bit. Here we have the phrase chew on it. To chew on something means to think about it deeply over a long period of time. So let me chew on it for a bit. At the end of this sentence, we have a new term here, a bit. A bit is an indefinite amount of time, usually a fairly long amount of time. Notice here, let me in this sentence becomes lemme. Let me chew on it. Now, on to our third phrase. I find their decision hard to stomach. I find their decision hard to stomach. I find their decision hard to stomach. This phrase was, I find their decision hard to stomach. This phrase, hard to stomach, means difficult to accept. Maybe they said something or chose something that you disagree with, so it's difficult for you to take or accept. Notice at the beginning of the sentence, find their decision becomes find their decision. We almost lose the D sound and the sound in find there. Find there becomes find there, find there. I find their decision. Now, let's move on. Have you heard any juicy gossip lately? Have you heard any juicy gossip lately? Have you heard any juicy gossip lately? This sentence was, have you heard any juicy gossip lately? Here, the word juicy, which is usually related to describe food, is used to mean something scandalous, something interesting, or something controversial. Maybe a deep, dark secret somebody revealed. Notice, at the beginning of the sentence, have you heard? Both of the H's from have and heard soften a bit. So, instead of have you heard any, have you heard any? Now, on to our next phrase. Your daughter's so cute, I could just eat her up. Your daughter's so cute, I could just eat her up. Your daughter's so cute, I could just eat her up. This phrase was, your daughter's so cute, I could just eat her up. Now this phrase sounds pretty strange to me. Eat her up. Eat up somebody's daughter? You want to eat their child? But it's often used to mean, she's so cute, you can't bear it. Especially used for pets or children, like a puppy, a kitten, or a very young child. This phrase is very commonly used. Notice here in the beginning of the sentence, instead of saying the S sound twice, daughter's so cute becomes daughter so cute. And at the end of the sentence, eat her up becomes eat her up, eat her up. So again, these three words going together and forming almost one big word, and the T reduces to the TD sound that we've discussed before. Here, to eat someone, or let's say something cute, up is a very positive phrase, but to eat someone up also has a very negative connotation. For example, in the phrase, you seem down, what's eating you up? So here, if something is eating somebody up, it means it's a very heavy topic that's causing them a lot of worry. So this phrase, to eat someone up, has two very opposite meanings. So remember, in the first use that we covered, you have to say someone or something is so cute you could just eat him or her or it up. Now, on to our next phrase. I like gardening, but selling cars is my bread and butter. I like gardening, but selling cars is my bread and butter. I like gardening, but selling cars is my bread and butter. This phrase was, I like gardening, but selling cars is my bread and butter. Here, we use the term bread and butter to refer to somebody's main source of income, their livelihood, how they make most of their money. Bread and butter can also be used to refer to the strongest point or most important point of something. For example, automobile manufacturing is the company's bread and butter. Well, here it's used in mainly the same sense. Notice in the beginning of the sentence, I like, we're talking about ourselves, it's softened, so it becomes almost an I like gardening. Later on in the sentence, cars has the emphasis, but is and my are in a weak portion of the sentence. So cars is my becomes cars is my, cars is my. Now for those of you in the audience, what's your bread and butter? Please let me know in the comments down below. Let's keep going. Those two are inseparable. They're peas and carrots. Those two are inseparable. They're peas and carrots. Those two are inseparable. They're peas and carrots. This phrase was, those two are inseparable. They are peas and carrots. Now in this phrase, we have the term peas and carrots. Peas and carrots means two things that go very well together. In America, peas and carrots is a very common vegetable side for many meals. So if two people are peas and carrots, they're very close. As I said earlier, they were inseparable. Inseparable means that they cannot be broken apart. They're always together no matter what. Do any of you know anybody who's peas and carrots? I know a few people. In our first sentence, those two are inseparable. It all shortens together. Those two are inseparable. Those two are inseparable. So the word are becomes more of the sound. Those two are inseparable. And with our main phrase here, peas and carrots, when it's spoken more quickly, the and reduces to just the n sound. So instead of peas and carrots, it's peas and carrots. Peas and carrots. Now let's move on to our next phrase. I see there's something on your mind. Go ahead, spit it out. I see there's something on your mind. Go ahead, spit it out. I see there's something on your mind. Go ahead, spit it out. This phrase was, I see there's something on your mind. Go ahead, spit it out. Here, the term spit it out means to say something, especially something that you've been hesitating to say. In our first sentence, something on and something on your mind becomes something on, something on. So something and on go together and form almost one word. Something on your mind, something on your mind. And our new term, spit it out, the T in it again softens, soft T, soft D. So instead of spit it out, it goes together like one word, spit it out, spit it out. Now it's time for our final phrase. I love living in my neighborhood. It's a slice of heaven. I love living in my neighborhood. It's a slice of heaven. I love living in my neighborhood. It's a slice of heaven. This phrase was, I love living in my neighborhood. It's a slice of heaven. Now here, a slice of heaven, like maybe a slice of cake or a slice of pie, refers to something that is so good you almost can't believe it. Something that's just the best, the most awesome thing. Notice here in the first sentence, I love living, the end of love and the beginning of living form together into one syllable. Love living, love living. Also notice, normally, slice of heaven in native speech would be pronounced something like slice of heaven, slice of heaven. However, heaven here is a very important word in English. We treat it with a lot of respect, so usually it's actually pronounced with the H sound, heaven. So instead of slice of heaven, it's slice of heaven. Maybe this pronunciation is a bit easier than a lot of the other ones that we've covered in the past. Now, for those of you watching, tell me, what is your slice of heaven? For me, it really is my neighborhood. And that concludes the lesson portion of our video. Now, let's move on and let's do our pronunciation practice. Let's go! I wish I could stay and chew the fat, but I've got to get going. I wish I could stay and chew the fat, but I've got to get going. That's an interesting idea. Let me chew on it for a bit. That's an interesting idea. Let me chew on it for a bit. I find their decision hard to stomach. I find their decision hard to stomach. Have you heard any juicy gossip recently? Have you heard any juicy gossip recently? Your daughter's so cute, I could just eat her up. Your daughter's so cute, I could just eat her up. I like gardening, but selling cars is my bread and butter. I like gardening, but selling cars is my bread and butter. Those two are inseparable. They're peas and carrots. Those two are inseparable. They're peas and carrots. I see there's something on your mind. Go ahead, spit it out. I see there's something on your mind. Go ahead, spit it out. I love living in my neighborhood. It's a slice of heaven. I love living in my neighborhood. It's a slice of heaven. And that is all for today's episode of Native Speed Listening. Thank you all for watching through to the end. Now go ahead, tell me if there's any phrases that were very hard for you to hear or difficult to understand. Write them down in the comment section below. And please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you next time.